Hello and welcome to I Know That Voice, the podcast about voice actors and voice acting. I'm Keith Wickham. I'm a voice actor, have been for 30 years. You'll know me best probably as Sir Topham Hatt from Thomas and Friends, as well as Gordon, Henry, Edward and various other engines in the show.
Can you get on with it, Keith?
I'm also Professor Inkling and Shellington in the Octonauts, and I was a koala brother. I was Cornel and Watch My Chops. I was in 64 Zoo Lane. I was also Change Daily in The Secret Show.
Show isn't about you.
I thought it'd be nice to talk to my fellow voice artists about their profession. These are people whose voices you will know, but who could still go to the supermarket without being mobbed.
Can you get on with it, Keith?
Today, my guest is an ex-train driver and fireman and nearly a policeman, but he's the man of 1,000 movie trailers. He's a man whose voice you will immediately recognise. It's Red Pepper.
I think we've got enough there.
Red Pepper. What a joy to be talking to this man. I must have heard you thousands of times over the years.
How you doing?
How are you doing?
I'm pretty good,
What's the
Keith.
point?
It's so good to be here, man, on this very, very, very pleasant afternoon.
Yes, being in a voice booth in a day like this is not great, is it?
Yeah, well, you should tell your listeners, be honest.
Yeah.
We are drinking some man fluid here with ice, and it's very, very nice.
It's like being in a virtual bar. Yeah. Yeah, Red Pepper, who is the voice of many, 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 many trailers and various other things and video games and things. Very familiar voice indeed. And it's just interesting to get to talk to somebody who doesn't come from the background that most of us do. I know, the drama school, stand-up comedy, or whatever route, and you didn't do any of this, did
Nope.
you? You born Barbados?
Yes.
Is that right?
In the humble island, the most beautiful island, strangely one of the smallest islands in the world, but the most popular islands in the world, in the parish of St. Peter. The whole island is only 21 miles north to south and 14 and a half miles wide east to west. And I was born in the north of the island, and I had no kind of background training or nothing to do with my vocals at all, apart from being born 10 pounds, 10 ounces, and screaming for more milk and more milk and more milk. And then I left there when I was 10 months old, and I moved to the States. I go back regularly, but when I first went back in 1996, which made me years old, I was very young then, and I just remember first time I actually cried as a adult. I cried.
Oh.
I'll tell you why. It wasn't planned tears, I gotta say. They came from nowhere, but I had to find out. I wanted to see the road that I was born on. So I get to Farm Road in St. Peter, and I'm maybe 50 yards, 100 meters, whatever it may be, away from the road. And there's an old boy. He's got to be in his 90s. He had 2 teeth in his head. And he's sitting down on the pavement, or I call it sidewalk, you call it pavement, on the edge of the pavement, right? And he's drinking a bottle of Banks. Banks is the beer in Barbados. And he literally said, Wit, come here, you young man. And I said, well, I'm looking behind me because I'm thinking he can't be talking to me. He doesn't know me because I've come over from England. And he said, you bandyfoot man, you. And I got closer to him, and my proper name is Richardson Ivan Green, same as my father. And he said to me, is your name Green? And I said, yeah. And he started to call the whole neighborhood, Sandy, Barbara, Euclid, Jonathan, come here quick. He said, look here, our son returned home. And this lady, all I can describe her as was like, remember the Tom and Jerry cartoons when Tom got himself in problems?
The mama.
And the mama,
Yeah.
you never saw her top half. You always saw the apron and the fat legs and whatever. And a lady who looked so warm and cuddly and mumsy, she came out wiping her hands with a dishcloth, and she says, oh, Jesus, Green? I born you right here. And she pointed up at a window in a house. And she was the lady who put me on planet Earth. She delivered me.
Seriously?
Yeah. And I tell you, as she pointed, she says, you was born right here. I don't know what happened.
Wow.
Emotions just came out. I said, wow. And that was a moment. I'll never forget that moment. And then I said, okay, well, thank you, and had a couple of drinks. And I said, okay, I'll catch you guys later. Thanks so much for your hospitality. They said, where you going? Where you going? Huh? You think you're leaving here? No. You having dinner with us tonight. So I ended up spending the whole evening having dinner in their home, and family came around and everything. I was a center of attraction. So that was a beautiful, beautiful moment. Beautiful moment. But yeah, that's how I came around.
And that was not planned. You didn't know anything about that. It was just
pretty much like my life. Nothing has been planned.
Nothing's been planned. No, you had no career trajectory, did you?
Exactly. I mean, I literally winged it. My biggest plus is the C word, confidence. I was always a confident man, and I'll never forget how I got into acting, because I have stage acted, and I was running in the rain in London on Old Compton Street, around that area, and I saw a taxi cab come along. So in the rain, I've just got my Burberry Mac on and my hat, and I dress really smart, and especially in Soho, I just like to feel like I belong to Soho. So I dress really nice, and I jumped in the cab on the left, and a lady jumped in on the passenger side in the cab at the same time. I says, "Oh," and she went, "Oh," and she said, I said, "Don't worry about it. Ladies first. Chivalry is not dead." But I'm thinking, damn. But then she goes, where are you going? And I said, I'm going to Charing Cross Station. She said, me too. Do you mind sharing a cab, young man? Anyway, turns out she was some casting agent. That's what it was. And she was looking for a part in The Lion King. And she said, you've got a wonderful, wonderful voice. Do you sing? So there's me saying, yeah, I can sing.
You can sing. Yeah, of course you can.
I cannot sing to save my life. I can do a great Barry White. I can say, "Oh baby," easy, but I can't sing. So I said, "Yeah, I think I can sing. We're casting for Mustafa," and I said, "Yeah, sure. And would you go to this place in Cricklewood?" And I went the following day to this house, and this guy is the word camp still illegally allowed. He was very, very camp, very, very fruity. That's what I say. And he opened the door. He says, "Oh, hello, you must be Red. Come on in." And I said, okay, this guy's got on one fluorescent green sock, one fluorescent yellow sock. Oxblood Dr. Martens.
Oxblood.
Yeah, and he's looking cool. Big old Victorian house, but big enough to hold a grand piano. And he sits down and he gives me this piece of paper, and he says, there's nothing special, don't worry. Don't have to learn any lines. What you got to do, let me hear your vocal range. And he went, la. So I went, la. And then he goes, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And he's going, oh my God. Try it again. And I was doing that very poorly, obviously. And he goes, Cassandra said that you could sing. I said, well, I didn't, I can sing a little bit. He said, you're wasting my time. Whereas on other occasions, I've said to people, I can act, and got into the role. I've played God. I've played at the Gulbenkian Theater, a few other theaters, and I played 4 different roles in Jeffrey Archer's Prison Diaries. I played many different things, and I didn't have a single minute of training whatsoever, and I got good reviews back in the day. But nowadays, my memory.
And again, this is back to confidence.
Exactly.
And I suppose also you don't have in your head the kind of class system or the kind of the hierarchy that we have in England about any of this.
Indeed. I mean, I've met so many actors, and the first thing, especially on stage or backstage, the first thing they want to rant on about is, what have you been in? What school did you go to? Blah, 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 blah.
Absolutely.
And no disrespect, because I don't come from that scene. That's not my bag. Sure. I can't really get involved in that. So the second you say I was not professionally trained, you can feel the whole aura change. It's like,
because we got to talk to backtrack slightly to fill people in who don't know. You were born in Barbados, but you moved to the States.
Yeah, until I was 15.
50. So you would have picked up the accent by then, and not lost it. So then you moved to London, and you moved to Lewisham.
I lived in Lewisham, Yeah.
South London.
Well, when I first came here, it was New Cross, a place called Childerick Road, Clifton Rise. Then I moved on to Lewisham and the surrounding areas, and I got to know South London like the back of my hand.
And you would have stood out because of your accent, presumably, and was that true? Did that have an effect?
Well, there was that, and there was my shaven head and my earrings, because many years ago I saw a movie called The King and I with Yul Brynner in, and he had a shaven head. But The King and I, he had these earrings in, and I said, man, guy looks so cool. He looks like some kind of genie or something. Me, stupidly, I went out on a summer's day, and I said to the barber, I want you to shave my head. And he says, You mean a number one, mate? I said, no, not a number one. I want you to shave it clean like an egg.
Zero.
Yeah. And he says, I don't think you should do that, mate. And I said, yeah, well, listen, I'm the customer. I'm asking you to shave my head. He says, all right, mate, all right. Do you want to watch me do it? And so I turned from the mirror. So I was not looking in the mirror. I said, no, I just want to go for it cold turkey. I'm not going to change my mind. And you got to bear in mind, on a hot summer's day, your skin on your face is different to the skin on the top of your head. Different shades. So he shaved it off. He shaved it off. And when he spun me around and I looked in the mirror, oh, my God. In my mind, I imagined I would look like Yul Brynner or Telly Savalas. I did not. Yeah. Gee, what have I done? Because it looked like I just came out of hospital, to be honest with you. I had a brain surgery or something. I said. So, that was one of the reasons I stood out. And plus, my dad wanted me to cut all the plaits, because my hair used to be plaited by my sisters and my mom. And my dad.
Okay, because you come from a very large family. Was it how many brothers and sisters?
6 sisters, 3 brothers. And my sisters used to plait my hair every Sunday in nice plaits, not dreadlocks. Nice.
So you went from having long hair to having nothing.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. I decided to do that because, as you can appreciate, in the 70s, there was a strong vibe around certain parts of London and the UK regarding black folks and everything. And my dad was so upstanding. You know, he worked for the law, and he wanted me to be not categorized as the runaround yardie type. I don't want you having that long hair. So he kind of helped me make that decision anyway. But my dad didn't expect me to come home with my head shaven.
With nothing. With nothing, yeah.
And then the earrings as well. Putting the earrings in was something different as well. I just thought I'd do it. And at that time, nobody was doing it. And my dad did not even give me the go-ahead to do it. So I was a bit of not quite a rebel, but I did have that, I'm going to do it. From then, I'm going to do this.
This confidence you were talking about, does this come partly from being in a big family where you have to vie your place in the household, or is this just innate?
No, this just comes from me being a bad boy. I was when I say bad, I'm not talking about any kind of criminal element. No. It's just that I went for it. My sisters thought that I was crazy. Why are you so stupid? I knew I'd get in trouble, but it's a bit like riding a bicycle, across a tightrope across the river. You wouldn't do that, but I would. I would have a go. You may fall, but you may succeed and get right across. If you fall, you take the bruises. If you get across, wow, the euphoria, that feeling, and that's what I was all about. So, and
so that was Lewisham, and you were at the same school, I noticed, as Francis Rossi went to, as Status Quo, and people like that. There was quite a few. Looking at the list, there was quite a few creative people came out of that school.
Yeah,
Sedge Hill School.
Sedge Hill, SC6. I was on there for a couple of years because I got there when I was 15. Right. But then I heard that David Bowie was born just around the corner. Yeah, it was a pretty cool school. We done pretty well. 2,500 kids in the school. I came out with all the top grades. I took just about every subject known to man. And back in the day when the rod ruled, if I came out of school with poor results, I was going to get a whoop ass. My dad said, if you come out of the school with less than an A, your behind is mine. No messing. He didn't ask you twice. You understood from the get-go that he was serious. But the thing is, with my sisters, they were little angels. They were good. They were not stupid. Whereas the male in the pack. He was just stupid. I was just stupid, you know. I was the oldest boy, and I was just stupid. That's what it was. I did some silly things.
Well, to bring us back to the voice thing, when did the voice happen? Was this something that was there as a kid? Did you feel that, or was that something that you developed later?
As like everybody, you know, you get to a certain age and you start getting a little bit of hair on your lip, and in other places, and I go, oh, I got a couple of hairs on my chest. Coming down the stairs one morning, literally my voice changed. It was like, "Good morning, Mom." Good morning, Mom. And my voice was not east or west. It didn't know what it was doing. I thought there was something wrong. My mother was just smiling. "You think you're a man now?" And I told her, "Yeah, well, I sound like a man." Bam! The back of my neck. She hit me so hard. And she told me basically that there will never be another man in this house besides your father. Do you understand? I said, okay. So the thing is, with the voice, a gravitas voice or a deep voice or a baritone voice, I didn't recognize the power that it had. The power of influence, the power of authority. It was there.
Okay.
And so when I'm 15, 16, 17, my voice was deeper than my friends. And it drew female attention, I got to say. I didn't want it. I really didn't want it. It was just, I ain't got time for girls. I was all about music then. But my sisters, though, they thought because they're smarter than men, when they get a boyfriend and they didn't want to see their boyfriend again, they get me on the telephone and they just get me to say, "Leave my sister alone. Otherwise you'll have me to answer to. Do you understand? I don't want to see you ever again." End of it. Because I was getting tall as well, and I had a bit of beef on me as well. I looked like I would take you out. I was getting paid by my sisters.
Your first voiceover gigs were
exactly
your sister's getting you to break up with her boyfriend.
And I got paid. They didn't like greens and Brussels sprouts and cabbage and all that. So I says, "As long as I get your cabbage, how about that?" "Yes, no problem." So I got paid in greens.
And later in greenbacks.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
And at this point, I am absolutely sure you had no idea that you could make a career out of this.
No.
That you had. Did you have any idea of what you wanted to do for a living, or was it just again things happened?
Well, I believe in the universe's chakras and vibrations all over. Everything is based on vibrations, feelings, right? But I just used to have this thing about radio. I used to listen to transistor, that's what we called it back then. And I used to hear the music, obviously. But then I hear these guys, and I say guys not because they were not women, but predominantly it was mainly men DJs back then. And I'm thinking, wow, these guys sound so cool. It came to a point where I heard a trailer by the great Don LaFontaine. And I said, he sounds like me. And so gradually I'd mimic some of these guys. Yeah, radio, whatever. And then I heard 194, Capital Radio.
Oh, yes.
And I kept hearing this 194, 194, all the hits. And I'm thinking, man, that guy sounds like me. I was not thinking I could get into this or this is my career or nothing. I just kept, that was all it was, very innocently just saying, that guy sounds like me. 194, Capital, all the hits, and they used to echo it out. All the hits, all the hits. And I walk around all day going, all the hits, all the hits. And my sister would say, shut up, for Christ. So anyway, that's how I think the nuggets were embedded into my mind. From then, I was fascinated by the voices on the radio. Then I go to the cinema and I hear these, you hear these voices on top of movie trailers, which sadly they no longer do in general anymore. And I think it's such a shame. Not because of my bank balance, nothing to do with that. It's just I think personally, movie trailers sound better with the trailer voice. Nowadays, you're getting the whole story in a trailer. So it's like, why am I going to see this movie? You've just literally told the whole damn Yeah, whereas there was something engaging about, somebody just saying.
The guy you're talking about, the 194 guy, that was Bill Mitchell, wasn't it?
Bill, yeah, I got to meet him.
Yeah.
I got to meet him in the 90s, and we used to sit down occasionally. When I say occasionally, because it was very hard to get a hold of Bill. I'd be, especially in Covent Garden, I'd be going to Angel Sound when Angel Sound was over there, and guaranteed 9 o'clock in the morning, Bill would be having a drink, beside his coffee, and he wore black all the time, and he could play the trumpet too. So because we've been in the studio before together, he knew of me, but I was a newbie then, pretty much. And hey, how you doing, Bill? He goes, hey, Red, come on, let's F around. Just like that. And we'd sit down there, and he'd say something like, in a world. And I'd say, in a town. In a sleepy. And we all these typical things, get ready. And what people go past us thinking, what the hell are these? And then Bill will just look at somebody, and he'd say, I won't say it, but go away, basically. And we used to have a guess, but then half an hour later, he'd be sozzled. So Bill was such a cool guy, but he would turn up to a session, and you had to take what he gave you. There was no more, could we do that a little faster? Could we do it again? You'd say, why have you not got it?
Yeah.
And he was one of those cool characters, but what a voice. Fantastic voice. He's a Canadian guy, and he definitely had this depth, the guttural depth. I'd have to search for it. It was not my natural voice, but his natural voice was down there. How you doing?
He was doing the Brute adverts, I remember, and he did loads of commercials on the television. I remember him being on. I can't believe you met him. That was great, because I never did.
Cool guy.
Heard a lot about him.
Very cool guy.
You went on from school. What happened then? What was your plan?
When I left school, I didn't know how to spell plan. I had nothing in my head apart from sawdust and the sound of music. I wanted to be a DJ. I wanted to be a radio host. I wanted to be a footballer. I thought that if I bought Puma King football boots, it would make me better. It didn't. I thought if I bought the Argentina Maradona football kit, it would make me better. It didn't. I was crap. I had no plan, and I said, you know what? Oh, I'd love to be a fireman. I'd love to be a train driver, as boys do. And McDonald's and Wendy's was new to the UK, and the first store in London was in Woolwich, and I got a job in McDonald's, and it was so cool back then because there were no McDonald's. This American phenomenon taking over England, it was like, wow, these milkshakes, wow. 89 pence per hour was my rate. I never forget that. And it was cool for a while. Then I thought, I don't want to do this. I ended up doing some security guard work, when they were rebuilding Liverpool Street. I'm walking around with a damn dog. What else? As I moved out from there, I got into the fire brigade. I wanted to be a fireman. It was all good. Dressed up in uniform, you learn the ropes, you learn all about the hazardous chemicals, blah, 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 blah. But the only thing they don't really prepare you for, cats up trees, great. When you see somebody, trying to put out a bin fire, no problem. But when you see whole families huddled together because they couldn't get out of a house, that was too much for me. I said, you know what, this is not for me. Wanted to join the police force. I went through all the training to become a policeman. And then my family had a family meeting, and it says, under no circumstances will we allow you to join the police. I said, well, I'm grown. They says, don't. We fear for your life, because there were no black officers over here. Not really. And the ones that did, they got beat up by the black community because they were saying sell out and whatever. So I moved away from that, didn't actually go in. Then I went into walking through Charing Cross Station, and I saw this board, guards on the underground wanted. So got into that. 6 months later, they were short of drivers. They said to me, do you want to be a driver? I said, is water wet? Are you serious? So I said, yeah. So I went up, and I'd done all my training to become a train driver. Train drivers are underappreciated, because every single train driver that you see out there on the underground and on the overground, they know their trains back to front.
Yeah.
Because on a train, when it stops, you have to know how to dissect and find out what the problem is and get it going again. There's no one else apart from you. So every train driver is like a mechanic on the train. And that's how it was. I became a train driver 13 years down the line. This is when my career changed.
Yes.
Because I blame the lady who was on the platform, the northbound platform of the Bakerloo line at Oxford Circus. She was doing a photo shoot wearing, the typical white Marilyn Monroe dress. And there was like 3 photographers clicking away. And as you know, and most people know, when you're in a tunnel station, when the train is coming, you can feel the breeze coming up the...
Yes.
And so she's posing, using the breeze of the train to get that iconic, the dress is good. It was really trying. I come in as a driver and I'm going past her going, damn. So I get past her, open up the doors, then I get onto the PA system. And this is where my career changed because I went on. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is your driver speaking. Just like to say a very special hello to Marilyn Monroe lookalike. You're looking good. Gentlemen, make sure she gets a seat. Mind the doors, please. Press the button. On I went. And I could hear people in the passenger unit saying, is that the driver? Did you hear his voice? Did you hear his voice? Wow, sounds like Barry White. Blah, 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 blah. I get to Baker Street. This guy jumps off of my train, and so I open the window, wait for him to get to my cab, and he's all flustered. And I says, what's the problem? I got a train 30 seconds behind me. What's the problem? I got to keep it moving. And he says, I just wanted to say, what a wonderful voice you've got. And I says, really? You're holding my train up to say that? No. And he gave me his name, and he says, take my card. Please call me. I could have a job for you. I said, okay. So I put in my contact, exchange numbers with him. Anyway, I get home, and my wife says to me, oh, some guy keeps calling here. Oh, this must be this guy. I called him. He said, come into the studio. Went into a place called Molinaire Studios, Dufour's Place in central London. So I walk in there with my underground uniform on, and I'm getting ready to go to work straight after. And he gives me a piece of paper. He says, when the green light comes on, just read the first line. Wait for it. When the green light comes on again, read the second line until you get to the end. I says, okay, just one line at a time. Yeah. So he puts on this trailer. These guys behind the glass all looking at me with their arms folded, kind of tentatively. Then no one's smiling or nothing. They're looking like, who is this dude? Are you serious? Because obviously the program director who is running the station has sold it to me because he was a guy on the train. And I'm looking at these guys and I'm thinking, okay, absolutely new, never done it in my life. In a world, wait for the green light, we're one man. All of a sudden, everyone's smiling. They're literally saying, I can't hear them, but their lips, I can read their lips, and they're saying, oh my God, get ready to witness, blah, 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 whatever. Coming soon, blah, blah, blah. So when they done it, I says, is that okay? And they press a little button. Yes, we're coming through. So he comes through and he shakes my hand, one of those really, really, what have we discovered kind of handshakes. He wouldn't let go of my hand. I says, okay. Everybody in the studio was smiling and beaming and shaking my hand and saying, great job. And I didn't realize what I was getting into. I didn't realize that the world of voiceovers was what I eventually discovered it to be. I didn't have a clue. Got a call from him the following day, and he says, I'd like to offer you a 2-year retainer. To a novice, I didn't have a clue what he meant at that time.
No. Why would you?
2-year retainer, 1 hour per week for how much? Okay. 1 hour, you say. Okay. At that time, I was busting my nuts for 48 hours per week on the London Underground, getting paid £326 take-home, which was very, very good back in 1995. And plus, my whole family was traveling on the London buses network and rail network and everything for free as a privilege. I couldn't equate how this man is saying, I'm going to get I won't even tell you, but it was good, for 1 hour per week on this 2-year retainer. Initially, I said to him, taking my father's training into consideration, I said to him, okay, I'll get back to you. I'll talk to my people. That's what I remember saying to him. I didn't have no people.
No.
But I talked to my wife, and I said, this man has just offered me a lot of money to do 1 hour per week. You said, are you sure he didn't mean 100 hours? I said, no, 1 hour per week. He says, signed a contract, blah, blah, blah. About a week later, I'm on the train out in Harrow and Wealdstone sidings. Mobile phone. Hello? Hi. Would you come in this afternoon to Molineux? I don't finish work until 10 p.m. tonight on the London Underground, but my mouth said, not a problem. Because I'm thinking, kerching, this is money.
Yeah.
I'm going to go in for 1 hour and make that kind of money. How could I say no? So anyway, I'm thinking, I'm scratching my head, and I'm trying to work out where I'll be at that time on the track. And I'm thinking, well, I can get to Molineux at 2, but I got to get a physical needs relief. Well, that's what they call the underground. If you need to go for the toilet, you get somebody to take the train north or south, come back, and you meet them on the opposite to where you dropped them. So I get to Baker Street on the southbound. I say, I want a P&R. He says, not a problem. We'll have a driver there for you. And then you pick it up on the north and continue the rest of your shift. So I'm thinking I can get down to Molineux. I can do my little stuff, and I can get back onto the northbound, pick my train up, and I've just made myself loads of money, and I'm still working on the underground. It didn't quite work that way. I get into the studio, and they're like, yes, oh, hello, Red, take a seat. No, I ain't got no time for taking a seat. I want to get in there and do what this man wants me to do. I didn't realize that's how it worked. So I'm looking at my watch, I'm thinking, so the train got to the northbound, I wasn't there. Trains are stacking up behind him. That same driver had to take it north. I'm getting myself in trouble. I did my job eventually, like 30-odd minutes later, went home, didn't finish my shift. Told them eventually that I was sick, but it started to happen too often. And then on top of that, even though I was a great driver, what happened? Because I was signed to for publicity and all the rest of it, one morning, 5:30, I get a phone call from my good friend Leon. Morning, Red. Yeah, people are calling your name on the radio. Are they? Yeah, you're all over LBC. You're all over talk radio. You're all over this, that, and the other. People are trying to find out if you know this bloke. Please contact us. And I know you, but I haven't contacted them. But I've been booking off sick. Basically, they got photographs of me on the Evening Standard, Daily Mail, Daily Telegraph, all the things. Me standing there, arms in hand, big headline, from underground to Hollywood. And I think, oh damn,
You're busted.
So anyway, the bosses needed to have a word with me. They says, I think you've been taking a liberty, and your keys and sling your hook, basically. Anyway, so now I'm in a panic mode because I'm thinking I got a 2-year contract. 2 years will be up. All of a sudden, I got no job. I had a fantastic job for 13 years. I left it. But then as I was going around studios, because people were saying, who's that voice? We hear that voice on this. We hear that voice on that. All of a sudden, I'm getting calls from Schweppes and Coca-Cola and whoever. And they pay you, as you know, proper money going worldwide. And I thought, okay. So I had a word with Nick Angel and Rob, who was working with him, who ran Angel Sounds, and they just looked at me and says, Red, believe in yourself. Have confidence. Have confidence. You're a confident man. You'll be okay. But I was panicking, thinking this 18 months or 2 years will be done. Will be done.
Well, of course you would. You had no idea the business worked. You had nothing. Yeah.
So I started getting jobs. Then all of a sudden I was Flavor of the Month, and this is in the 90s, and all of a sudden I'm getting movie trailers. Then all of a sudden I'm getting these games. My first game was Shadow Man, and it's still iconic to this day.
It is a weird story because it's a rare story.
Yes.
This only happens in films. This
Exactly.
that people get literally plucked from the street into something like this, and you actually lived it.
Yeah.
And at the time it happens, I guess because everybody dreams of this stuff, but you hadn't been dreaming of this at all. So it suddenly happens, and of course you're going to panic.
Exactly. But then I think after Shadow Man, I started to get a lot more confidence. I was always a confident man, but I was just thinking about the security of my kids and stuff because they were kids growing up. And then all of a sudden, I think I was in Imperia Galactica and Blade and Gothic and Shadow Man Second Coming, Viet Cong. I got pulled to be in movies, Serenity. I'm Saravok Anchev in Baldur's Gate 3. And the funny thing is, again, like you said, coming from nothing to meeting some stars, I got a call from my agent because along the way, by the way, I ended up getting an agent.
I was going to ask about that because none of this came out of being in an agency, did it?
No.
Originally.
But then I signed up with Speak, who morphed into Harvey Voices. Emma Harvey's got to be the best. She's a wonderful person.
And you've been with her the whole time? You've been with the one agent for the whole time?
Yeah, I think I was the first person she signed back in when she started the business 25 years ago, whatever. So she used to call me son. Hello, son, number one. And I said, hello, mum. How you doing? But she's lovely. And it was her who actually called me. I forget how many years ago. It was, hello, Red. I just wanted to ask you, who do you think you are? And I says, what have I done? And she goes, I've had a certain Tim Burton call me up and asking for you personally. I says, he wants you to be part of his movie, Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. Really? Okay. So anyhow, I turn up at his one of many houses, no doubt, in a beautiful part of London. He says, right, my engineer, who does all my sound and everything, soundcraft, he said that you are the man for the job, so I trust him. And I says, well, what do you want me to do? He says, I want you to be the sound of all the ghouls and all the horrible, wicked things in this movie. I says, okay. So he takes me in the studio. He's got about 300 microphones, tiny mics, big mics, fat mics I've never seen before. And I know my mics. Huge room. And he says, just, and all he did, he said, I want you to sound like you're dead, but you're still alive, but you're trapped in a dead man's body. And when you're ready, just do your thing. I says, okay. So I'm there like, and I'd done about 1,000 different voices for these things and shouting and screaming and whatever for Tim Burton for that movie.
Yeah.
That came out of nowhere. These little things happen. They're little nuggets that you say, am I dreaming? Is this life really, really happening? It's so satisfying. That's the word. It's satisfying. Even that movie, like I just mentioned, Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children.
Yes.
When that came out, I went to see it only because I did the voices for it. And I enjoyed the movie, watched the movie, and my wife is like, wow, this is good. Samuel L. Jackson was in there as well, and blah, 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 blah. And I sat down for the first time, and I waited for the credits just to see my name in the credits. It was just to see.
That's the thing about you. You've done thousands of trailers, but you actually haven't been in many films.
The voice of me was in Serenity with Matthew McConaughey. I was playing a Plymouth DJ. You know, I was. You could hear the. It's going to be a stormy night tonight. As a different, and a lot of people don't realize that my vocal range is quite good.
Yeah.
So
it's more than they think it is. Yeah.
Exactly. So even though my standard voice is like this, I can go all kinds of things. I get involved in all sorts of stuff. And I get involved in a lot of things because I've always said to voice actors, if you're a one-trick pony, you're going to have one check every couple of months. You're not going to get paid. So you have to.
Now, the next thing I wanted to go on to was AI, because part of the reason for doing the podcast at all is to ask people about their attitude to it and what they're doing about it, whether they're frightened of it, whether they're going to embrace it. And I wondered what your take was.
A few years back, when I used to be with Instagram, I'm no longer with Instagram because I got fed up of looking at people's food and bosoms looking at me. And I said on that platform, do not be afraid of AI. What a fool believes. And I started quoting a lot of music, AI has got its uses. AI in the hospital industry, nothing to do with voices, is fantastic. AI can perform heart surgery. AI can do many, many things. When it comes to the voice, it cannot replicate our voices. This is not because I feel that I'm going to be out of a job or our industry is going to fall down. Reality is it cannot absolutely mimic a human voice. It can mimic the words, but it cannot mimic the intonations and the sighs and the breaths and the, you know, I've always said people can speak silently. You can hear a man shaking his head through the way he says something. You don't have to see it. With AI, it's very staccato. It's very, some of them I hear on YouTube all day, every day. It grates. But what will happen is people will become used to AI.
Yeah.
This is what it is. This is the issue. They will become used to it just like they're used to watching TikTok clips. Nobody's brain can engage more than a 10-second clip. Same thing with AI and voices. You're not getting the whole picture. You're not getting that feeling. You're not getting that.
Yes.
We, as voice actors, we can bring out emotion. We can get you excited. We can persuade you. We can dissuade you. We can intimidate you. We can lift you up. We can do so many things with our voices. We can do it with the right backing, the right ambience behind us, or even dry. I can make you cry talking to you dry. Trust me, I can. It depends on what you say and how you say it. You know that, Keith. But the AIs, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not worried. I'm a little irritated with it, but I'm not worried. I don't think I'm going to be out of a job because of it. Some young actors, the young voice actors who are coming through now, they will be intimidated. They're thinking, oh my God, why am I trying to join an industry that's dying? And I say, no, you're not. Keep on doing what you're doing, because the true professionals will not employ AI. The clowns may do. I had a word with my agent just the other day regarding a particular advert that I heard on the television, and the very end of it, I could hear this voicey, wow, that's me. I know me. And I sent it off to my agent, and I said, but there's a commercial out there, but at the end of it, that's me. I'm telling you, that's me. But will they admit they used it? Will they admit that they're not going to, because they save themselves a few bucks. So there's a lot of people out there who are doing naughty things with our voices because
that's
they get...
the thing that frightens me the most, I think.
This is it. This is why we like podcasts and stuff like that. And then you get the comments with your podcast. Why did you put backing music to it? Why did you put that horrible noise? They're irritated because they can't lift it.
They can't lift it.
That's what they want to do. So
yeah, I know. That is worrying.
Yeah, that's the only thing I'm worried about, or concerned about. But
thank you doubly then for doing this.
Yeah, but there is also the caveat is that there are teams who are now working, and they're in the latter stages of creating devices that can detect a clone voice, or they can detect if you've used it illegally. So clone away, do what you're doing, but you will not win because you'll get sued, pretty much.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's nice to hear your take, because you're not a million miles away from quite a few people I've interviewed who are frightened but hopeful. Yeah. There's a mixture of kind of fear and the idea that, yes, in the end, you can't really replace humans.
No.
I hope that's true. I mean, I cross my fingers and hope that is the truth.
No, we got to fight the power. Seriously. Again, and all it takes is you to go to a cinema and listen to a movie or where you have a lot of narratory in that movie. They will never in a million years use AI. They just won't do it. It's a piss take, and people will call them out on it. Well, it was shite. It didn't sound good.
It wouldn't connect, would it? And even if people don't realise it's AI, they will subliminally realise it's AI.
Of course.
It won't connect in the same way.
Well, that's the thing. Again, like I said, 90% of YouTube videos are AIs, and you're hearing them all the time. You go to any one of those videos that are talking about, but do not get comfortable with it, because then that's when things start to break down. Just don't go on there. Just don't engage with it. And I knock around, I get myself around, I keep myself busy. And I'll be 64 on the 23rd, which is about a week from now.
Wow.
Christ almighty.
Yeah.
Doing this for 30
But still
odd
going.
years. Yeah.
Still going.
Yeah,
Voice
indeed.
actors and actors in general, their voices don't change that much compared to other people. I think because we use it all the time.
Exactly.
We're sort of aware of it.
But there's also, the fact that we do not spend 7 nights a week in the pub, and we
True.
do not smoke 70 cigarettes
Yeah.
a day, and,
True.
and we drink plenty of water, and I'm very meticulous about that. I probably drink 20 of these damn things all day. That's no exaggeration. I'm crazy about water, crazy about extra virgin olive oil, little things like that. You got to keep your body in
Yes.
shape. You got to keep your vocals in shape. Not by
it's your
doing any
tool.
special exercises. I'm not. Some people do, but I'm not a fan. But I just live my life cleanly, and that'll give you plenty of time. So when I'm in my 70s, you'll never know unless I make myself sound like I'm in my 70s.
Yes. Okay, that I think is enough. Thank you very much, Red.
It's been my pleasure, Keith. And as a stalwart as you are, as I am too, it's been a double pleasure because we know what we're talking about.
Yes, thank you.
In a world of infinite podcasts, you came seeking an entertaining distraction. You chose I Know That Voice. Presented and produced by Keith Wickham, a real man. In this episode, the guest was me, Red Pepper, spelt with 2 D's. This year, every year, in a voice booth near you. Thank you for listening. See you on the next episode. Well, I won't, you know what I mean. The next episode, yeah, bye. Now get out of here.